Good morning. Welcome to the most watched Saturday political breakfast show on TV. My name is Sam Omashe, and this is The Platform. Acting President Yemi Osinbajo takes steps to counter Kaduna declaration. The dust raised by Saraki's acquittal is yet to settle as the federal government heads to the appeal court. Victory for the police in the case of Evans, a notorious kidnapper. It promises to be an interesting episode today, but let's begin with an excerpt from my article published in the Nation newspaper titled Bayexit. If we were to follow history, it would be easy to dismiss Nnamdi Kanu, Ben Nwabweze, Nwazurike, as well as the other cohorts of MASOB and IPOB. The reason is that they often fail. The secessionist ends in a riotous divorce, free, proud, but broken. South Sudan reels in blood and bile. Eritrea stews in want and lies prostrate, often envious of its former cousins. In Europe, the remnants of old Yugoslavia are quiet, but sniff no greatness ahead. The Basque separatists in Spain are a shadow of their historic bluster. Scotland saw their dreams scuttled. It is now more difficult since the last elections. Once proud, it now limps. Those calling for Bayexit, or Igbozit, or Istit, or Easit, should better think again. They should be grateful that Nigeria has never come apart. It is not only in the southeast, but in every region that tanks should trump tanks of war. If Biafra were born today, the battle for the soul of the new country will eclipse in the face of new insular agitations. The Owerri area will show resentment for Enugu's proprietary hubris. Today, all of Igbo land cannot agree on a new state. Wawa will assume new and truculent meaning in Igbo lexicon. The frenzy to go over the border for business may steam up passions. The nostalgia for trading in Kano, to lap up Lagos profits, sprout up high-rises in Abuja, will compound the absences of protein in a landlocked country. No access to the water through Port Harcourt or meat through other South-South states will loom with the spectral skeletons of old Biafra. Immigration men and women in stolid visages will stand guard if, that is, a Trumpian war is not in the offing. Nor will it be easier in the Southwest. The Yoruba, who will be heard rather than be herds, may even become more heady. In Ibadan alone, the battle for a new state of Ibadan atrophies any prospect of brotherly meal of Abula. Ditto in Ogun and Osun and other parts of Yoruba land, including Lagos, where the Awori Babel jars are plenty. Since the Yoruba wars in the 19th century, the heart of Karo Ojire has shrunken from consensus. There is often no us or a shadow of consent. What is sometimes interpreted as principle or an assertion of independence is an excuse to launch selfish ambition or seek revenge. It has helped well in the context of Nigeria. The Southwest has become the conscience of a frazzled hodgepodge called Nigeria. When it fails, all else fails. As for the South-South, the contention will be a world tragedy like that of the former Yugoslavia. The Urobo may marry the Shekiri, but the politics may turn bloody from drip to deep like the ocean. Ijo will look askance at the others, Ogoni will want to rail against the Ikwere, and the many so-called minorities will suddenly wake up with egos as large as the Atlantic Ocean. Up north, the Christians in Taraba invoke the Holy Spirit against the unbelievers. Ditto Adamawa. In southern Kaduna, where a call for a separate state has gone the way of all flesh, herdsmen and sporadic hordes raid in murderous glee and rape for spoils. We see the triumphalism of the 1804 jihad of Uthman Dan Fodio will contend with the subordination of the Hausa. The jihad made the Fulani the lords, a minority though they are over the Hausa. But all of that is not a factor in a Nigeria where there are many others to dwell. The enemy of my friend is my enemy. The issue of Biafra is still gaining traction in some parts of the East because it is now only an emotional matter. If Biafrans start to understand that business will stunt their riches, their land will suffer human overload, and know that the Yoruba they love to hate so much is the reason to love to go back to Nigeria, and the Hausa they loads them with a lot of patriotic raising daughters. They will start to keep the Kanus and the gang in the lodge. Reason will mix with emotion. Biafra suddenly will become a castrated bull. If the United States calls itself a melting pot and Canada a mosaic, Nigeria is a web. All the strands exist like chaos, but they are bound. Every family has an inter-ethnic link, and Shekiri cannot forget the Yoruba tie, nor the Onisha, the Kogi link, nor the Hausa, the Ogbomosho prevalence, etc. So those who tend to call for division should not forget many who do so want to pursue selfish agenda. The battle for federalism means all should be fair. We all know we run a skewed and ethnically rigged federalism, which makes it no federalism. We need to have a federalism where the small is no smaller than the biggest part of it. That means a South-South community that suffers from oil spill should not get 13% of its own gift without its permission. Federalism without democracy is hegemony. It is such matters we should bring on the front burner. The call for restructuring is a great call, but it is not our greatest drawback. It is a sense of suspicion and failure of high values like fairness and honesty. If we give every ethnic group its state and every region its due, we shall still rail at each other because at bottom we still suspect each other. We need Nigeria, but we need it for all and not a few. But we cannot do it by following the path of the Kanus who point an anarchic alternative. We are better under a Nigeria, but we have to make it work as insiders, not as outsiders. That way, we can turn the web into wealth for all. News Mention is next.
The acting president is acting very fast, ahead of the now infamous ultimatum by some groups of Arewa youth who most likely are acting political scripts and have ordered the Igbos out of their land before the 1st of October. Professor Yemi Osinbajo received leaders from the southeast who were at the presidential villa as part of consultations intended to douse tension and hate speeches capable of destabilizing the country. Professor Osinbajo urged leaders to engage with their followers to address these agitations and proclamations urgently and decisively.
I firmly believe that we ought to address these agitations and proclamations urgently and decisively. Burying our heads in the sand and expecting the storm to blow over of their own accord is not an option. But equally not reasonable is falling for the temptation for any kind of tit for tat, whether it is in language used or is in the kinds of gestures that have been expressed. This has never worked or moved anyone closer to a peaceful or sensible resolution.
In a separate meeting with northern leaders, acting President Yemi Osinbajo charged them to always speak up against hate speeches and divisive statements in their respective domain. Professor Osinbajo emphasized that these kind of rhetorics and agitations are unjustifiable, unacceptable, and oftentimes illegal.
Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Perhaps that is what is going on in the minds of the acting presidents as he speaks with the various leaders of the especially contending groups in the southeast and in the north. But we should understand that the problem is not just with the elite in the north and in the southeast. That is a good beginning, having a talk with the acting president. But the problem is that the elite in the north and the elite in the southeast have not been able to speak truth, either from or to the rampaging youths and organizers of the rebellions that we are seeing in both the east and the north. Those calling in the north for the Igbos to leave the north, and those in the southeast who are saying that they want to leave the country. It is necessary that there is a conversation between the leaders of the northeast and the people underneath who are agitating. If there's no conversation between them, there's no progress. We're just papering over the cracks. What is necessary now is for us to see that dialogue going on. In the southeast, it seems that even the governors are afraid to even condemn the call for Biafra. And until we start that kind of conversation, we're wasting our time.
It is almost 2 months now since President Muhammadu Buhari left Nigeria to continue his medical treatment abroad. Not a word has been transmitted from the president to Nigerians. The president's spokespersons have also been quiet. This time there are no visitors who get photo opportunities with the president. All we hear are rumors and speculations that is hard to believe. The president's handlers have never done a good job in updating Nigerians on the president's state of health. They even joined the rest of us to spread rumors and fake news.
This is a democracy, this is not an autocracy, this is not feudalism. If the president is sick as Muhammadu Buhari, but he is being taken care of as President Muhammadu Buhari. So that connection makes the whole apparatus of the presidency responsible to Nigerians to give us information about what is going on. The much we have heard so far is the report that the president is rejecting fires that are being thrown at him by members who want to undermine, the constitution of the country by not recognizing the president, acting president. 2, by not understanding that we run a system and not a monarchy. And 3, that this country belongs to everybody and not to some people. And the president himself said that it's for everybody, for nobody. Well, the president has done a good thing to reject them, but we want to know what is the state of the president.
There is more to come from the trial of Senate President Bukola Saraki. It appears the joy of acquitting Saraki of corruption and forced declaration of assets may be short-lived. The federal government has filed 11 grounds of appeal challenging the judgment of the CCT. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice Abubakar Malami, in the appeal against the CCT judgment, says despite setbacks recorded in some of the cases involving politically exposed people, the war against corruption is fully on course.
Past President Olusegun Obasanjo has asked the AFCC to get Ogbologbo lawyers. But there are some cases that are so obvious that you don't even need Ogbologbo lawyers to get the matters going. The Saraki case is one of them. It's just a case of a judge wanting to peddle injustice by setting the man free of all the 18 charges. I am sure that we are all hopeful that in a few months, whenever the case is determined, the truth shall be told. There is no way in justice's name that a man like that, Danladi Umar, who gave that judgment, will go down in history as a man of justice, rather a man who corrupted justice.
Evans indeed enjoyed a field day as a kidnapper. He is even referred to as billionaire kidnapper. He was clever, ruthless, and deadly. He could pass as the man next door, the master of disguise, and consistently elusive. Chukwudi Onwuamadike, also known as Evans, has been stopped in his tracks. More revelations about his heinous talk in trade continue to unravel as the police grill the most wanted kidnap kingpin in Nigeria. There have been a shocking twist in the Evans story. Some people are asking for pardon. Pictures of his crying wife and children have gone viral on different social media platforms just to whip up sentiments. The most annoying is an hashtag Free Evans. Some people even say if the Code of Conduct Tribunal can discharge and acquit Senate President Bukola Saraki, billionaire kidnapper Evans should also be let off the hook.
In Nigeria, you can't hear anything. But I don't blame them. If a case like that of Saraki can go scot-free, why can't an Evans go scot-free? That is the kind of mumble-jumble justice that we have in this country. But the most important thing for me at this time is to make sure that this Evans man is preserved. Nobody should touch him or kill him. We need to get as much information from him as possible. We need him alive, not for his sake, but for the sake of Nigeria. His network must be very, very octopusal, which means that they are everywhere. And we want to retrieve every corner of it and get the truth out of it. The second point is that our banks have shown again that they are the conduits of corruption in this country. How is it that a man like that has piles and piles of money in the bank and the banks have not even raised any alarm? We have to look at our banks. Our bank MDs are perhaps the financial Evans we have in this country. Coming up on the program is the big talk. I sat down with Governor of Borno State, Alhaji Kashim Shettima, and he talked about destruction caused by Boko Haram insurgency, the plight of the internally displaced persons in the state, as well as the Chibok girls.
My major focus now is to see to the completion of rehabilitation works in Bama. We have so far rebuilt about 10,960 homes in Bama. Bama is the second largest town in Borno after Maiduguri.
It is time to bring you the comic of the week. This should probably help us forget for a short while the many troubles in our society. Well, the first is from the Daily Trust, and it satirizes the agitations of some groups in the southeast of Nigeria. It even suggests some selfish motives could be behind all the hue and cry about Biafra. The second sketch is from Business Day newspaper, and it is about Evans, the billionaire kidnapper. Here, Evans is compared with Nigeria's rogue politicians or politician rogues who use their influences to kidnap our commonwealth. This is also by the ace cartoonist Asukwo. Here is In the Mirror. They crash vans into worshippers and place cars, and they plant bombs at music concerts. They defy law and order to spread hate and stab the innocent. With the signature yell of Allahu Akbar or God is the greatest, they seem to derive a fulfilling climax of their mission. Fellow Muslims have disowned them, from the armed men in Paris to the buses repeatedly rammed into unsuspecting crowds in London and other major European cities in Sweden and Germany. The response by security agents may have been impressive, but the threat remains. So true is this, that northern Nigeria grapples with its own share of terrorism. Yobe, Borno, and Adamawa are among states that will suffer constant attacks by Boko Haram. The sect wages a war that pales in its demands in the face of growing body counts. It says Western education is forbidden, yet it uses Western technology to commit crimes and radicalize, just as it aims to make northern Nigeria an Islamic state. Before moving on to soft targets, these terrorists attack police stations, security offices, and military barracks. And since it surfaced in 2009, more than 20,000 people have been killed and 2.7 million displaced, with many kidnapped. Well, that is it for The Mirror. Welcome to this segment of the show. I have with me a special guest, the Governor of Borno State, Kashim Shettima. You're welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you so much, sir.
It's been quite an interesting, shall I say, 6 years plus as Governor of Borno State. And before that, you've also had experience in government as commissioner on different 5 portfolios. So you are steeped in government. But what you found as governor was not anything anybody expected, even you.
Honestly, it was a very daunting task, a very frightening challenges. But as the saying goes, if you can't withstand the heat, get out of the kitchen. And leadership comes with prizes we need to pay. And when God saddles you with positions of responsibility in trying moments, we have a moral obligation to rise up to the challenges and provide leadership. But by and large, most of the problems in the North is not unanticipated. There is a direct correlation between poverty and violence. As long as we do not address some core issues of creating jobs for the jobless, of creating a foothold, a workstation for our youth in the 21st century, I'm afraid this is an appetizer of worse things to come. We as leaders, we have that moral obligation to wear our thinking caps and do the right things, create jobs for the people, because once we create jobs, once the youth are engaged, this madness will certainly evaporate. So the Boko Haram crisis is a wake-up call, not only for leaders in the Northeast. There are challenges of youth unemployment all across the length and breadth of this country. It's not peculiar to one sub-region.
It's everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
It's a wake-up call for us to really improve on the quality of governance and work for the people. And believe me, this madness will evaporate.
When you were given Governor of the Year, was it 2 years ago, with a few other governors, Oshomole and Amosu, both of them actually said that you were the one who deserved it the most, because it was a period in which everybody thought everything had collapsed in Borno State. And can you walk us through what was going on in your mind? Because I know that even Boko Haram was a few miles away from the State House.
It was quite frightening. At a point in time, they had effectively encircled Maiduguri. All the roads leading to Maiduguri. Maiduguri Biu Road, you couldn't go beyond Delwa. Maiduguri Bama Goza Road, the end of the Nigerian territory was Konduga. Maiduguri Baga Road, nobody could go beyond Gom. The only access road to Maiduguri was the Maiduguri-Kano Road. And even that road was equally subjected to periodic attacks by the Boko Haram. But then leadership comes with a price. And the ultimate price of leadership is for you to sacrifice your life if needs be. And believe me, I was ready. I was prepared. I had written my will.
Really?
Yes, I was ready to pay the supreme price if needs be.
At what time did you write your will?
Well, about 6 months into our tenure, when the political barometer was heating up, when the Boko Haram insurgency was about to reach its crescendo.
When they were hoisting their flags.
All over the place. At a point in time, they overran about 20 to 22 local government areas across the state. So, and in times like this, in moments like this, we should summon the political willpower and the courage to identify fiercely with the people. At least I'm surrounded by a forest of policemen. What of the common citizens? 6 million of them. We couldn't abdicate our responsibility to the people. The mere fact that you are around, you are on ground, tends to give a salutary effect to the people. They will say, look, our leader has not run away. Ordinarily, this period of the year is the period for spiritual jamboree by the Nigerian ruling class to Saudi Arabia for the Umrah. I can't go. I won't go. I will never go, because there is no greater Umrah than staying with your people and working for your people. Yes, others in peaceful climate may have the luxury, may enjoy the luxury of going on the spiritual jamboree. But for some of us, it is mightily impossible. In fact, it's almost a crime against humanity for you to leave your people in their times of need, in their hours of despair.
You became even a source of news story to a lot of people from your pronouncements during that time, because you were really nibbling at the ribs of the Jonathan administration, making the point that even the military that we had was inferior in terms of discipline and in terms of equipment compared to that of Boko Haram. And it was a time in which everybody was frightened. How did it affect your relationship with the center?
Well, my relationship with the center was at best frosty, even in the best of times. But I made deliberate efforts to have a cordial relationship for the collective good of our people. And to be fair to former President Jonathan, he's essentially a good man. We have to give it to him. He's essentially a good man, but sometimes I call him an honest simpleton, because he is vulnerable to the antics of the people around him, and assorted crowd of reactionary elements, tribal teen gods, religious fanatics, very backward politicians, retrogressive politicians from the north.
And when you say from the north, you also had your predecessor who was also making things uncomfortable for you.
Certainly, I don't want to mention him, but basically he was one of the people who was largely behind the frosty relationship between President Jonathan and I. But I really don't want to overblock a dead issue. But honestly, the relationship was not the best. And I made efforts, severally, to meet with the president and to tell him some brutal truth. Because if you have the privilege of gaining access to a leader, it's not the best of options for you to expose your dirty lining in the public square. But I was literally pushed to the wall. I met him on more than 10 occasions. The last time, I was granted only 3 minutes audience. I came all the way from Maiduguri to brief him on the tragedy unfolding in the northeast in Borno. And I was granted 3 minutes audience. And I felt that posterity will judge me harshly if I fail to alert the world, to the Nigerian people, on the tragedy unfolding. It wasn't an outburst per se. I made those pronouncements with the clearest of conscience and with the highest sense of responsibility. And honestly, it had nothing to do with politics. The Nigerian army were in a very, very bad shape. The morale was low. They were lacking in arms, and most of the arms are even very obsolete. arms and ammunition that were used during the civil war, and so on. And the Boko Haram were procuring very, very sophisticated weapons and are putting our military on the run. So I felt compelled to come out to the public square and inform the Nigerian public.
Yeah, that was very interesting. How would you say you put your team together in this period? Because it's one thing for you to be the governor and for you to have your team intact, especially against the backdrop that at one time there was this slamming of a state of emergency.
Well, what happened was that one quality I emphasize, much more than even political affiliation, has to do with competence. One, I made sure that all members of my team are well read, well exposed, and committed to the Borno project, apart from being politicians. In my first cabinet, all the members of my cabinet were graduates except one. I had about 3 or 4 professors in the executive council. That goes to show the quality of people we had. And these are people who went through a lot. One of my commissioners, the Attorney General, was killed in Burma by the Boko Haram. A member of the House of Assembly was equally gunned down in Jere. So many local government chairmen were killed, councillors. So many party apparatchiks equally fell victim. But honestly, I have to commend them. They were a traumatized lot. They made a lot of sacrifices, some with their own lives. But the greatest sacrifices were made by the people of Borno, who were repeatedly killed. You know, the official figure that is quoted as far the number of people killed by Boko Haram was 20,000 Nigerians. Believe me, up to 100,000 Nigerians were killed. Here I am, getting 24-hour power supply, getting access to pipe-borne water. Probably some of them do not even have the meal, the food to provide for their families. Their businesses have crumbled. I know of several people who are worth hundreds of millions of naira. But Boko Haram has pauperized them.
Wiped everything out.
Everything out. So actually, my sympathy, my heart goes out to them because I am part of the elites. And the Nigerian nation has been quite good to us. We were educated at public expense up to my MSc level. I was a federal government scholar at the University of Ibadan.
Yes.
I was on Borno State government scholarship at the University of Maiduguri.
Now, if we look at the situation now, we discover that you have done some rehabilitation, a lot of road constructions, a lot of schools rehabilitated, estates, homes, and so on. How far along are you in all of this?
Well, my major focus now is to see to the completion of rehabilitation works in Burma. We have so far rebuilt about 10,960 homes in Burma. Burma is the second largest town in Borno after Maiduguri. We have gone up to about 70%, 80% in Goza, and nearly 90% in Damasak. My major focus is within the next 30 to 40 days. I want the people to go back to their homes in Burma, Goza, and Damasak to pick up the pieces of their lives. This issue of life in the IDP camp is not a palatable option. And the truth of the matter is that most of our people want to carry their poverty with dignity. They would rather go back to their homes and eke out a meager existence than for them to live a VIP life in the...
Where they dole out food to them. There's no dignity in that.
There is no dignity in that. And you know, the worst thing is that sooner or later, entitlement complex will creep in. People from the countryside who are used to safeguarding their dignity and humanity are being spoon-fed. very soon they will expect to be paid ad infinitum.
Exactly. It
And
creates its own problem.
And you know, even now, sir, if you go to most of our IDP camps, they are pregnant with lots of challenges of early child marriages. Yes, early child marriages, prostitution rings, drug issues of drug abuse, gangsterism. And if we allow these IDP camps to remain in existence for the next 1 year,
it become platforms for another set of
problems. The biggest IDP camp in the world is the Dadaab refugee camp in northern Kenya that had a population of 300,000 people. The Kenyan government finally summoned the willpower to close down that camp. And what I really want to emphasize is that in all the camps in Maiduguri, the total population in the IDP camps in Maiduguri is a paltry 178,000. And in all the other satellite camps in Dikwa, in Gamborungala, in Bran, in Monguno, in Dambua, in Sabongari, in Kalabilke, the number only 350,000. So the total number of IDPs in the camps in Borno numbers only about 500,000. But the people living within the host community in Maiduguri outnumber those living in the IDP camp by a ratio of 3 to 1 or even 4 to 1. In Maiduguri alone, we have over 1.3 million IDPs living within the host community that are not captured under any umbrella, that are not captured under any safety net. They are tired of paying rent. They have exhausted the patience and resources of the African extended family system, and they really want to go back home. And we intend to provide a very robust platform. Policemen are going back to Burma and Goza. Civil Defense Corps are going. We are mobilizing the civilian JTF, the vigilantes, and the cash to provide adequate security within the townships so that the people can live in peace and security and harmony.
Means that there's still a lot of more work to do.
Well,
but you've had some help from international agencies and some from federal government. But it seems that those portions of help still can't muster
like
the huge challenges.
The challenges are humongous. As per the recovery and peace building assessment done by the World Bank in partnership with the European Union and the Presidency, a total number of 956,453 units of houses were destroyed in Borno, making up 30% of the total stock of houses in the state. 5,335 classrooms in 38 secondary schools, in 501 primary schools, and 2 tertiary institutions of learning were destroyed. 665 municipal buildings, government offices, local government secretariats, police stations, 1,630 boreholes, motorized boreholes and hand pumps, 13 ecosystems, 775 power stations and substations were So this is just a tip of the iceberg. And for the international community, especially the international NGOs, they have this fixation on the IDP camps because of the immediate visibility it generates. Yes. We have to look at the immediate, the medium, and the long-term needs of the people. Incidentally, the UN, they are doing a fairly good job. We have to commend them. At least they are helping us to pick our people.
The European Union.
The European Union, they are doing an excellent job. And of the UN agencies, I have to pay special tribute to the IOM, to the World Food Program, to UNICEF, to UNHCR, and UNDP. These are some of the most vibrant of the UN agencies working in Borno. In fact, for the UNHCR, they are even intervening in midterm solutions. UNICEF is providing us with educational tools and health support. But our greatest benefactor to that is the Dangote Foundation.
Interesting.
Alhaji Aliko Dangote, I think we remain eternally indebted to him. He gave us 2 billion naira. And knowing Borno, I told him, sir, we don't need your money. Give us building materials.
Yes.
And he gave us building materials worth 1 billion naira for a start. I said, we don't even need your 2 billion. Give us 1 billion. Let us provide the component of labor, of the roofing sheets and so on. And let's build houses and schools and clinics for you to practically see the outcome of your investment before we go further. But I'm very quite pleased to note that the acting president has intervened decisively as per our food security challenges. Because to me, it's quite embarrassing when the UN agencies and the ICRC and the Norwegian Refugee Committee or the Danish Refugee Committee should be feeding our own people. We are not a pale state, and we are gradually losing our relevance because the very existence of the government is to provide, is to cater to the needs and welfare of the citizens.
Self-esteem.
Yes, but the acting president has done well. He has approved 30,000 metric tons for immediate food intervention in the Northeast. Out of it, he removed politics out of the whole gamut of the equation. He said 50% of those foodstuffs should go to Borno. So there is nothing like pine or any intermediary that will bring up some scandals on the system. It's very transparent. They are using a government vehicle, the NEMA plus the SEMA, to directly reach the people. And he was in Maiduguri.
Yes, it was.
Where he launched the program. And in the healthcare sector, the federal government has equally done well. The Minister of Health, Professor Isaac Polorenshaw, has been there on more than 4 occasions, so pretending to the health needs of the people. But I believe that in the coming weeks and months, we shall get a much more robust, a much more comprehensive response from the federal side towards the reconstruction efforts.
Another thing that happened we have to talk about is the Chibok girls and the situation. You know, we had some of them back and so on. People are wondering about rehabilitation. How do they really get back to society after they have been brought from captivity?
Well, like the first set of Chibok girls that were released were truly in very bad shape, emotionally and physically as well. Captivity, especially in the hands of demented monsters like Boko Haram, is never a palatable option. But the second batch were better taken care of.
Why was that, do you think?
I believe my own gut feeling is that probably with the intermediation of the International Committee of the Red Cross, probably they were given access to the girls prior to their release, and they were providing the food and the condiments for the welfare of the girls. That is my own gut feeling.
I mean, within a short time.
Within a short time.
Made them look better.
Yes. So that's my own gut feeling. And right now, the girls are undergoing psychosocial support and therapy in Abuja. We had about 56 girls that earlier ran away from the Boko Haram. When they were taking them into the Sambisa forest, some of them jumped up the pickup vehicles and so on. So we got about 56 of them. We took them out of that Chibok terrain. There is an NGO, Girl Child Concern, headed by Dr. Meiro Mandra. We partner with her, and she got us some of the best schools you could ever get. I deliberately asked her not to even tell me the name of the school, the names of the schools.
Okay. Why?
For security reasons, because I don't want their security to be compromised. But they are very good private schools, one in Borno State, the other in Plateau State. The girls are graduating by July. Well, we are going to hold a very big ceremony, and the state government will certainly offer to fund their education further up to the university level. And we didn't make much noise for obvious security considerations. Now that they are going into the real world, of the 56, I think up to 54 are finishing by July. 2 of them sadly said they want to go back home and get married. And you can't compel somebody. We made efforts to persuade them to hang on, that life is going to be better when they are educated, but they insisted that they don't want to be educated. So we are trying to teach them vocational skills, the other two, so that at least they can provide for their families and be worthy citizens.
Now, not long ago, the CAN leader in Borno State said a lot of good things about you, about inter-religious harmony and the roles you played in bringing them together, and even in the IDPs and so on. Can you speak to that?
Well, leadership requires you to live above board. No leader was appointed by the boss of his own ethnic kinsmen or by those with whom they profess the same faith. And in this country, sir, if we are as religious as we are pretending to be, this country could not be in this mess. Religion has become a body of rituals devoid of practical value. We have God on our lips and table in our hearts. And the Christians in Borno, they are our brothers and sisters. They were born, bred, buttered, and toasted right in the heart of Borno. Are we going to barbecue them? Are we going to drive them into the lecture? We have a moral obligation to provide a level playing field. This is why I made deliberate efforts, affirmative action, to see that in every initiative, we make sure that the Christian community, not even the Christian community, I don't even subscribe to this notion of settlers and so on, non-indigens and so on. We have a very vibrant Igbo community in Maiduguri. One of my special advisors on community relations is an Igbo man from Anambra State. One of my senior special assistants, the closest to me, one of my closest senior special assistants, is an Urobo man.
Really?
Yes. And he was born, bred, buttered, and toasted right in the heart of Maiduguri. He speaks Hausa better than I do. So I believe that we have to run an inclusive government if we want people to have a sense of belonging and to contribute their quota to the development of our state. And in Borno, especially in southern Borno, most families are a mix-up. You will find Muslims and Christians
in the same family.
In the same family.
Husband and wife in the same family.
Professing different faiths. The CAN chairman, Bishop Mohammed Naga, is from a Muslim family.
Yes,
his father is a Muslim.
He's a CAN man.
Yes, he's a CAN chairman.
He has Muhammad.
You know, and he has Muhammad. Yeah. The previous, his predecessor, his father is a Muslim, so also is his mother. And it might interest you. In his house, where his father stays, there is provision of a Muslim prayer rock and all other accessories for his father to practice his religion. And most importantly, let us admit that the Boko Haram came out of the Muslim fold. They never came out of the Christian faith. And they went about on a burning spree, burning churches and mosques. But I felt compelled to reveal all the churches destroyed by Boko Haram in southern Borno. Was it their own fault? These are people who are even in the best of times, the poorest of the poor. they saved over a period of 5 years, 10 years to build a place of worship. And these lunatics came and burned those places of worship. So we have, leadership, I believe, requires fairness, requires justice, requires equity, requires inclusivity, and whatever price, believe me, at whatever price, I am willing to provide fair, inclusive, transparent leadership in the state.
As the leader of the Northern Governors Forum, one of the significant moments was recently when you issued a strongly worded statement against the Kashim Shettima's group asking the Igbos to leave. And after that, there was some, what do you call it, some video put aboard the internet about you and Amosun making some incendiary statements and so on and so forth. Can you speak to the irony and the paradox of that?
Well, I know the consequences of unveiling a masquerade. I knew that I would be subjected to the most vitriolic of attacks for taking a principled stand on issues. They have no right to give quick notice to Nigerians in Nigeria. And some of the missing elements in our leadership equation in this country has to do with lack of clarity of vision and the tenacity of purpose. Tenacity of purpose, of saying the right things, of doing the right things at whatever price. They came out with that emotion video. I'm not so lowly that I could call Governor Emotion Kule, or so gullible to be. And it wasn't me. This was concocted about 2 years ago. Nobody listened to them. They hibernated, it went into hibernation. They resurrected it and gave it a new life and make it look as if it was a recent conversation. It wasn't even a conversation. I couldn't bring myself to call any of my colleagues by their first name. Kule. This gentleman is much older than me. Yes. I have tremendous respect for his persona, for his integrity, for his personality. And I just, some of our people are quite gullible. But the discernible minds really read in between them.
People are close to him, don't call him Kule.
Yes. Kule. And the person, that Kashim Shettima was even speaking faster than my normal pace of, and it has that Yola accent, that Fulani accent. Yes. I don't speak with a Fulani accent. I am a Kanuri man. I am the master to the Fulani. So it was quite amazing. I just love it. And they came out with another one earlier on, insulting my person and Governor Eropai. This morning they came out with another one. But I have developed thick skin to all these insults.
Shenka calls them the millipedes of the internet. Some of them are not millipedes. Some of them are actually sponsored.
Yeah, certainly. This one, all these attacks on me, on Governor Eropai, yes, and Governor Aminu Waziri Tambuwal and so on, were deliberately sponsored by people with inordinate ambitions to rule this country at whatever cost. And it's so sad. It's very sad.
Now, to conclude, as to the two personal ones, you started as a lecturer. Do you one day think of going back to teach in the Ivory Tower?
Honestly, I am nursing that dream. I really want to go back to the Ivory Tower. I have not completed my PhD. I'm a very ambitious person. I want to learn French.
Really?
Yes, I want to learn Arabic. And if possible, Mandarin. Because these are the languages of the future. Yes, and I'm nursing that ambition, honestly, on a more serious note, because it gives you a lot of freedom. And knowledge is just like manure. If you stockpile it, it smells like hell. If you spread it around, it enriches the soil, and you will get bountiful harvest. Whatever that one was able to garner in governance, one can easily impart to the younger ones coming up, to build in them the Nigerian spirit, for them to believe in the Nigeria project. Yeah, yes, I'm certainly having that dream, sir.
Among other dreams, because you're still a young man, so many things you can do for this country. Now, the last question I want to ask has to do with a story that was in the newspaper one time. When you were working, you used to work in Lagos, and one time you visited Lagos, and you went to Buka with your cabinet and so on. And one of our columnists described you as the governor of the year for doing that, and so on. Tell me about your connection with Lagos and the people, the people around the city.
You know, I have an emotional bond with Lagos. This is why I started my banking career, and I'm very much attached to Lagos, to the Lagos spirit, of the incorrigible Lagos spirit of never saying no, the indomitable will of the Lagos man to excel at whatever cost. And even now, before I get to the airport, I will branch through and say hi to the lady. We upon that bond, that friendship, since 1993. It's in Onibombo. I used to work in Maryland, not in Maryland, in Ikeja, along Allen Avenue or Shoppe Plaza. So anytime I closed from work, I used to briefly by work at her place and eat my dinner before going home. That was when we struck up that relationship. And I felt, you know, it's nostalgic to identify with your roots, no matter how humble they might be. It's not all about being born with silver spoon or diamond spoon. The truth is that all of us struggle through life. And a lot of us tend to shy away from identifying fiercely with people that we grew up with. So this is why even as I'm on my way to the airport now, I will briefly stop over at her place and exchange pleasantries before. It's Ramadan. Obviously, we cannot eat during the daytime, but I will still greet her. She's where we do exchange phone calls once in a while. And I think there is also another lady at Elupeju. I have two women from whom I used to eat. All are mama put, you know.
Yes, mama put, that's what they say.
Yes, and they are very, very delicious meals, you know.
All right. On that note, I say thank you for coming,
Thank you so much.
Wish you greater success in your execution of your projects in Borno State.
Thank you so much.
And we've had on this show special guest, Governor Kashim Shettima of Borno State. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for being a part of the show today. Join me next week for another edition of the program. And until then, be good.